Hello and welcome to a brand new Mind Mastery video. Today I'm going to address one of the problems or roadblocks that we might encounter in the process of self-actualization. Something like a block towards our ability to be authentic. So when we express ourselves, when we describe our experiences, when we communicate with other people, we know that this communication is a very important part of being authentic. Otherwise, other people might have struggles with defining whether we are authentic or not. And also, we might have a problem with connecting other people with other people due to not expressing our experiences in a clear way, in a clear and direct and authentic way. So there is a concept called the language of responsibility, which is an integral part of Gestalt psychology, or Gestalt therapy rather. And the general theory behind this concept is that when we express ourselves, we do it in a way where we own our experiences. We don't deflect the responsibility onto other objects or other people, but we own what we're experiencing basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down this whole concept of language of responsibility into various components, which will allow you to understand how to be more authentic and more clear in your speech, how to own your experiences, and doing so will enable you to become more authentic as a whole human being. Because if you can't communicate clearly, if you can't communicate authentically, then there is something that might be blocking you from being more authentic, being the best version of yourself. There might be something that you're hiding from yourself. There's something that might be something that you are not comfortable with in terms of who you are or what you're experiencing. And that usually will come out in the patterns of your speech, in the way that you communicate to other people. So one of the elements of the language of responsibility is owning our feelings and emotions. We often hear an expression of, this makes me sad, this makes me angry. But in reality, nobody is making you feel in a particular way. You are experiencing your feelings. In a way, you are producing your feelings and emotions. So when you say that this thing makes me feel happy, or that person makes me feel angry, you are disowning your feelings and emotions, and you push the responsibility onto external objects outside of yourself. So in contrast to that, when you say that I'm angry at that person because this and this happened, or I'm sad about what happened yesterday, you are owning your experience and you are owning your feelings. And obviously you are taking full responsibility for them, because once you own this experience, once you take the full accountability for your own feelings and emotions, you are responsible for them. You are responsible for the causes. You know that you are producing these feelings. They are not coming from the external world, but they are coming from you. And you are responsible for the consequences of having this feeling. So for example, you might choose to act upon your anger, or you might choose to act upon your sadness. So owning your feelings and emotions is the first step towards becoming more authentic in your speech. Now the next element of expressing yourself in an authentic way and using the language of responsibility is speaking in the first person. Now, this is something that we all do to some extent. When we describe some general idea, some theory, we might often say that, when it rains, many people can feel depressed. Or, when you go through such and such experience, you're going to experience this, you're going to experience certain feelings or emotions. Whatever, and insert whatever example you want here. So what happens is that we might be using the second or even the third person in order to describe our own experience, our own interpretations, and our own observations in the world. So again, this deflects the responsibility, this deflects the ownership onto something else. And this probably could be analyzed from many different angles. So without going too deep into the subject and the causes of using the second or the third person, some people might be using it as a defense against perhaps shameful or embarrassing feelings as a form of self-protection against taking this responsibility, because once you take this responsibility, you express yourself, and so you express this vulnerable parts of yourself. Other people might be using it in terms of pushing the responsibility in order to push the responsibility onto something or someone else so that they don't own it. So when the consequences come, they will not assume the responsibility for the consequences either. So probably there are many different causes we might find in terms of using the second and the third person when describing our experiences. But the whole point is that when we do it, we disown our experiences. We disown our experience, we disown our responsibility and the ability to be authentic in that moment. Because when you say that, when you go through such and such experience, you might be feeling in a particular way. You are not talking about yourself in that moment, but you are talking about some hypothetical scenario, which is fine to some extent. But depending on the context, if it relates to your own experience and you are not using the first person, it means that you're avoiding taking responsibility for expressing yourself. And as a consequence, you're not really going to be authentic in that moment because you are not using the first person. You are not seeing the connection between yourself, the subject, and what's happening outside of you. So making this connection and understanding that you are an integral part of your own experience will make you more authentic because you're going to own the elements of that experience. Another possible block towards expressing yourself authentically and communicating clearly is using can't instead of want. So, for example, you say that I can't meet my friend today because I'm busy, instead of saying that I won't meet my friend today because I'm busy. So, if you notice the difference here, in the first example, you say that I can't, which is untrue because you can simply get up and go out of your house and meet your friend. That's a fact, and that's true. So what you're saying here is that you are pushing the responsibility onto some forces which are probably not existent, and you avoid taking this responsibility for your action. But in contrast to this, if you say that I will not meet my friend or I won't meet my friend, you're stating the fact because you say that you are not going to do anything about meeting your friend. You're not going to get up. You're not going to leave your house. So that's a fact, and you take responsibility for what you will do in the future or what you will not do in the future. So when you start paying attention to the patterns of how you're communicating, how you use language, notice the instances when you try to push the causes of your behavior into some force that's non-existent. Because each time we do it, we push away our own personal power into something else, into someone else, instead of, owning our experience, owning our ability to make choices, to make decisions, to say that we will do something or will not do something. It's very easy. It's so easy. So again, owning our experience, owning the causes of our behavior will enable us to be more authentic, more clear, more direct in how we interact with the world and interact with other people. And the last example I wanted to use, or the last component of this whole idea of language of responsibility, is saying something like I should do something or I shouldn't do something. Now, when we say that we shouldn't do something, I shouldn't eat that cake, I shouldn't stay up late, it's an example of a self-shaming language. It means that we put a restriction on our behavior, we put a blockage onto what we want to do. Because if you say that I shouldn't stay up late, but you stay up late anyway, there's a contradiction. There is a contradiction because instead of saying that you want to stay up late, you say that you shouldn't stay up late, it doesn't make sense. You put a blockage, and in a way you start to shame yourself for for not being able to meet your expectations perhaps, or to meet this idea of conforming to people's expectations perhaps, or conforming to some rules that you set up for yourself. So in a way, they shouldn't be confused with the fact that we might have certain expectations towards ourselves. We might have some standards. And, there's nothing wrong with striving towards them. But the thing is that if you have standards for yourself, and instead of striving towards them, you say that you should be striving towards them, it doesn't work. And it's not going to work because you don't really want to strive towards these standards. If you said that I want to strive towards my standards, I want to go to bed early, I want to be disciplined, I want to have a schedule, I want to complete some work on time, that changes the whole picture completely. Because in that case, you are owning your experience and you take responsibility for your action. Because you say, I want to do something, or I don't want to do something. But when you say I should or I shouldn't do something, there is no action in that, because it's a form of language that aims to shame yourself. It's a form of language that aims to judge yourself and evaluate your action rather than help you to move towards a goal. So when I say that I should complete my work on time, there's no point in saying that, because I already know that. I already know what the deadline is. I already know what my expectations are towards having this work. So what's the point of saying that? I might as well just say that I want to complete my work on a deadline, before the deadline, or I don't want to complete that work. And when I use it, it puts me into experience of taking an action. It doesn't put me in my head where I make some evaluations or judgments about myself, but it puts me immediately in the present moment experience where I can take an action and make a choice and move forward. And essentially that's what being authentic means. It's being in a moment, making choices for yourself, making decisions, and moving forward as you make decisions for yourself. So these were just few examples of how to use the language of responsibility and what potential consequences there might be if we avoid taking this responsibility, if we kind of deflect the responsibility onto external objects or other people. Because once we start doing that, we are not owning our experience, we are not owning our decisions, we are not taking any actions, and essentially we are not even inside our experiences, because we are kind of stuck in making judgments and making evaluations rather than taking action. So as usual, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you have any questions or comments, just drop them below the video or send me a direct message. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.